What I usually find when I'm assessing a client for eligibility for schema therapy is usually very emotional, sensitive people, often people that have complex personalities. Some might have been diagnosed with a personality disorder. They're people that'll be quite treatment resistant with a lot of the different other modes of therapy that's out there. But schema therapy can get to the heart of their pain, which is usually early childhood suffering. And the goal of it is to help young adults or whenever they come for counselling to identify what their schemas are. One of the most powerful elements of schema therapy is knowing that you can break out of these ways of thinking, these early maladaptive traits or traps or belief systems that you have. As an adult, you get to choose your thinking. You just need to be aware of the thinking that's corrupt or not working in your favor. Most personality issues are not genetic. What they are is a conditioned response to one's upbringing. And that's why schema therapy in particular is effective with people that have, I don't like to use the word personality disorders. I prefer to look at it as challenging personalities. Often people that are highly emotional, people that are difficult to understand or read or bond with. These people don't want to live this way. They don't want to have a tumultuous life where they have intense relationships and then they go pear-shaped. They're not aware of what they're doing that's creating the glitch in their ability to connect and bond with others. And that's often because of their schemas. Once they understand the schemas, the world is their oyster again, because there's strategies to disentangle yourself from your schema by even just being aware of, this is one of my schemas, unrelenting standards, or a sense that there's just, well, of the 18 schemas, unrelenting standards, the defectiveness one, the abandonment one, they're the ones I see, the mistrust one, I see them more frequently than some of the other schemas. Regardless of what the schema that a person might hold is, you can change your thinking. You can see when it's in the room, when it's interrupting the flow of a relationship, and you can stop your automatic response in that moment and check it, and then reclaim that as your adult, healthy parent, healthy adult, happy child self, and not just continue to roll on with a conditioned reaction that hasn't served you much beyond when it was invented, which was to survive a dysfunctional environment. So the reason why I think it's really important to let adults know that it's not their fault that they have schemas is because they tend to blame themselves for why life seems so much more difficult, why they're so emotional, why they end up getting angry or impulsive or just don't manage as easily as, say, their peers or other friends that they observe in their arena. And I explained that they didn't have the same upbringing. And it's our upbringing that molds our young selves. And as parents, we have to be so responsible for the huge privilege and like influence we're having. And the smallest of events can have a deep, penetrative impact on a young person. The example that Alan gave regarding, getting 99% correct, and it's that 1% that his parent quizzed him on, like what went wrong there, led him to feel that there is no wriggle room. It's perfection or nothing. And then we extrapolate from that, I am only of worth if I get this 100%. And we all know 100% isn't possible. So what he's basically being set up for is a lifetime of torture, where he's climbing every mountain he can to try to get this accolade, this acceptance, this feeling within, and this belief that he's finally deserving of love and a position and belonging. And all of that's untrue, because he was always lovable and he was always good enough. And this was his early conditioning that corrupted his ability to let love in, because what we do is we protect ourselves, and that's the defense modes. That's the overcompensating, or it's the surrender. There's lots of different modes. There's the angry aggressor mode. There's all these different ways we protect ourselves when we feel our schema might be triggered because no one wants to feel our schemas. We don't like it. We don't like feeling unlovable or mistrusting or like we're going to be abandoned. When I first started out, cognitive behavioral therapy was the gold star, and it's still brilliant and it helps people in magnificent ways. But we don't have to stop there. If people were to engage in therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy wasn't really hitting the spot, schema therapy lends itself to a deeper, more complicated analysis of the human condition. It's got that sort of flavor of psychotherapy and psychoanalysis in that it wants to understand your childhood. It wants to understand patterns and perpetuations so that rather than just looking at cause and effect and the conditioning that we've experienced, it goes into the feelings that bear so much light on why we operate the way we do, why we run towards certain things and run away from other things. I find this work extremely rewarding because it's not a band-aid fix. It's not just that very superficial dance between your thoughts and your feelings. It goes right to the heart of where most people's pain and suffering lie, which is when we're forming our identity during our formative years, when we're not the boss of our environment. We have other people that are our caregivers, and we don't get to choose who they are and whether they're doing a good job or not. As a therapist, I get to help the person that's suffering learn how to take over the reins and not be listening and leaning into a story that's outdated and was probably never even true. They get to write a new script for themselves, so then they've got a new template to launch from when they have their own children. Luckily, we don't have to just draw from our childhood knowledge of our own upbringing because we can observe healthy examples of parenting. We can deliver that to ourselves every day by being kind to ourselves, compassionate, forgiving, curious, and we can also be not just the healthy parent or healthy adult, we can be the playful, happy, vulnerable child that wants to be seen in the world and understood and loved and connected. All this is within reach once someone is open to the idea of exploring why they're acting the way they are, how it might be holding them back, and when they do get this feeling of responding in a conditioned way, they get to work from a different repertoire, a whole new list of strategies. Once you know that there's a door for change, it's highly addictive. You want to thrive and feel happy and confident, and a lot of that is around untethering yourself from an old story that you didn't even write that probably wasn't even true. So I recommend this kind of therapy for anybody that either feels stuck or has tried other types of counselling modes and not got the results they wanted. My biggest request is that people don't give up, that they keep pursuing the most important piece to anyone's happiness puzzle, and that is their psychological well-being.